Hi, and welcome back to Bots and Beyond. Another fantastic guest, another great episode lined up as always. This week, I'm joined by Mr. Andreas Welsh. For anyone who is and has been following me and others on LinkedIn, Andreas is really vocal on there in a very positive way. And I reached out probably a couple of months ago now to say we should really do a podcast together. And this is even more important now because Andreas is also the host of Intelligence Briefing, What's the Buzz, which is a new-ish LinkedIn Live stream where he talks about artificial intelligence. So there's loads of great stuff that we are going to discuss today. Obviously, I know Andreas reasonably well now after interacting for quite a while. But for the rest of the audience, Andreas, firstly, hello.
Hello. Thanks for having me.
No worries. And for everyone else's benefit, as is very usual now for all of our guests, we're really interested in who you are, what you do, and more importantly, why you do it. So over to you.
Thanks, Wayne, for having me today. Really excited to be on the show and to share a bit about what I do and what we do at SAP. Like you said, for the past couple of months, I've been really active on LinkedIn, sharing more information about how you can build your AI COE and how you can scale it. What are things that you should think about, that you should consider, that you should be aware of? Because for the most part, I have been on that journey myself. Over the last 6 years, I've had the opportunity to get a look at the topic of AI and automation from different perspectives. And so I'm really passionate about sharing that knowledge, passing it on, because I see that so many of us are on that journey. And some are a little further ahead, some are a little behind, but that's not the point. The main point is that we can all learn from each other. And that's why I'm here on LinkedIn, why I'm also excited about joining your podcast. But that's more my passion project. You know, when I look at my day job, I work for a company called SAP. SAP is the leader in business applications worldwide. Many of your listeners are probably familiar with SAP. And there's a lot of opportunity in businesses, in business processes to just make them better, make them faster, more intelligent, and help users get more out of their work, more out of their time, and more out of their systems as well.
So a couple of things, a couple of threads I think I really want to dive into. I guess, first of all, your specific role at SAP. Let's go there first. And then you kind of mentioned 5-6 years that you've kind of been in and around and looking at this space. So first of all, let's start with SAP, and then I think let's deep dive into kind of what's interested you most over the last kind of 5 years or so in AI. So talk to me about your role at SAP specifically.
So my role has evolved over that period of time. I've been with SAP for about 12 years and spent a good amount of that time actually in IT. I used to be responsible for doing OS deployments, software deployments, migrations from mid-sized companies, and then joining SAP. So this part about automation and automating processes, scripting, putting thought into how you do it, how you describe that thing, and then run it multiple times. That's something I've learned from very early on in my career, and that's what really got me excited about AI and automation as well. So about 6 years ago, I would say, was really when we, as an industry, started seeing artificial intelligence, robotic process automation emerging, and really as a hype topic. And I think back then we didn't even really call it artificial intelligence. We called it machine learning because we were very specific and very precise in the terminology we used. But if you look at the market, that's kind of diluted a little bit, and there's so much AI in so many different areas in applications. But that's a different point. The part that really got me excited is because for me personally, it was an opportunity to branch out of IT, to become more customer facing, to talk about digital transformation, to learn from customers and advise them on how and where you can use AI and automation to drive better business outcomes and better results. And do that at a time when there was already so much focus on it, and everybody was trying to figure out, well, what is that thing? What is machine learning, and how is it different, and what can I do with it? So super exciting time, and super exciting time to be in that space. So I worked with a number of large multinational customers at that time, and was very close to them in their business, learning about where are automation opportunities from supply chain to HR to finance, all across the business. So really, really exciting time. And then for about 2 years, I led our AI COE. That was part of our largest development unit with about 9,500 people. So we have a decently sized COE that looked at things from idea scouting. What is a good idea? What's a valuable idea? What makes it valuable to the customer? What would make it valuable to SAP? To what are customers that we can engage with that would like to work with us on such a capability, maybe share data with us. Together with a team of data scientists, we would then build a prototype, go back to product management and to the customers and share the results. And then, through a couple iterations, this would eventually make its way into the product. And then with a third team, lead the early adoption of some of these capabilities. And right now, I'm leading a team of what we call solution managers at SAP, and the role is really focused on having an outside-in view, looking into the market. What are trends that we're seeing? In which areas should SAP invest in, and where should we focus as a company when we look at AI? So it's really cool in that sense, because I can draw from both my customer-facing experience working on technologies and my experience working in that COE type setup, and having gone through many of the same growing pains that I see many companies and heads of automation go through as well, and now make it relevant for how we tell that story, how we focus on certain things, and what we are focusing on.
Great insight. I mean, I think that really, really helps set the scene. It's funny. I must admit, when I think about SAP and SAP transformations, and often, certainly with clients that I've worked with in the past, they've often felt like incredibly long and complex journeys, especially when it's a multinational organization and there's lots of different iterations across different countries, and so it'd be good, I guess, from an audience perspective, just to understand a little bit more about the role of SAP and its purpose. I think that would be a really good place to start, and then let's have a think about, and I think most people probably know, but some of those user cases where SAP is incredibly strong. Because I know when we caught up before, actually you taught me quite a lot about SAP, so I'm fairly certain you'd be able to teach a lot of our audience about SAP as well.
Absolutely, more than happy to. So SAP is the world's leading vendor of business applications. Anything that a company needs, from running HR, from for example, finding the right talent, putting job postings out there, to onboarding, to managing that entire employee lifecycle, from recruiting to retirement, if you will, from the customer-facing side, from generating leads on your website to moving them along as opportunities, creating quotes that your sales team would create, selling the product, and then the whole finance side of it, getting the money, booking it on the right accounts, following up if somebody is not paying on time. Just two big examples of what we would call an end-to-end process, really from start to finish. And then it goes on to things like procurement, from sourcing the right materials to procuring them, and designing products to operating them. Really, that entire purpose of a company and helping their operations, that's what you would use software from SAP for. And so there are a lot of opportunities, right, for automation, for AI, based on the data that you already have in your systems. It could be transactional data, looking for patterns, for seasonality, for certain patterns in demand. When are we expecting a surge in demand, and for what products and what location? So, that means we need to build a few more. We need to ship a few more so we can meet that demand. To, like I said, on the HR side, what's the right talent that we need if we're now growing? Where do we get it from, and so on and so on. So lots of opportunities there. And again, through my previous role, in roles having worked with real customers, seeing how business operate today, and there's a tremendous amount of opportunities and potential. Because as much as we have been talking about digital transformation for the last 6, 7, 8 years, it's not a reality for everyone, and not a reality at the same pace for everyone. So where you will see AI from SAP is really along all of these end-to-end business processes, in different applications that support these processes. So think of something like travel and expense. Travel is picking up globally again. Super excited. I'll go on my first trip in a little over 2.5 years in a couple of days. But when you go on a trip, right, you start collecting receipts, and you maybe put them in an envelope. And by the time you get home, you're like, where did that envelope go? Because I need to upload everything and prove to my company that, yes, these were expenses that I had, and they're legitimate expenses. So with the products that SAP provides, it's called Concur Travel and Expense. We have embedded AI natively into that product. So think about sitting at the dinner table. You're done with dinner. You get your check, pay it, sign. Now you can take a picture with your cell phone or a smartphone with your app, upload it to Concur, and then in the background with AI, we extract the information that is on that receipt, from simple things like the address to the date to the total amount, and we populate that expense item for you. So making that part a lot easier, right? Then travel a little less stressful and cumbersome. Another example, for example, would be out of HR. You want to make sure that your workforce is competitive and remains competitive. So what are, for example, certain trainings or learnings that your employees and that your team should be taking? So getting recommendations for trainings that prepare them for the next task, the next step, maybe trainings that others have taken. It's just another example here as well, where you don't need to build something from scratch, or where you don't need to spend a lot of time activating these things.
Whenever I think of SAP myself, I think historically I've always thought of kind of supply chain. I thought of kind of finance, invoices, etc. So to know that it is a much more multifaceted capability, and where hire to retire and other aspects of an organization was news to me. And so really good to see and to hear about all of those different aspects. And I wasn't even aware that Concur was part of the SAP family. So it is a brand I am aware of, but I wasn't aware that it was part of the SAP product suite. So excellent. So I'm sure others have learned some stuff there as well. I think you've spoken a few times about how different user cases and how they can bring that to life. The thing I'm really interested in is automation a friend or a foe of SAP? And how does the world of SAP, let's say RPA and kind of AI collide? And is it does SAP come along kicking and screaming when an organization is very keen on using RPA, or actually does it see it? And I shouldn't just limit this to RPA, but automation in general. Does it see it as a friend or a foe? It'd be really good to get your view on that.
Pulling out some statistics out of my head. So there's one where we see that about, I think, 77% of business transactions worldwide touch or run through an SAP system. So SAP is really at the heart of business and what businesses do. And in that same sense, right? Like I said earlier, there's so much opportunity to do business more efficiently and more effectively. And the way we think about that is that we certainly provide things out of the box where we see 80-90% of our customers having these problems and having these challenges, and make that as easy and simple to use as possible, and make sure that it's trusted. We think about things like ethics, data privacy, these kind of things, which are core to what we do. But also realizing that that's not everything that everybody needs, right? Every business is a little unique and a little more unique than the next one, and every industry is a little different. So giving that opportunity for you to build something that's maybe a little more custom to what you need is certainly something that's part of how we view things and how we also approach this and go to market. So in that sense, AI, like I said, out of the box for these big, massive processes where 80-90% of customers want to extract information from a from a purchase order, put that into a sales order. There's no need that you necessarily do this outside of SAP. Sure, you can, but that's part of where we see the value of an SAP solution coming in, or matching incoming payments to open invoices to help make that process more efficient and effective. But also when we look at these processes and sub steps of that process, right, there's always a mix of different tasks. Maybe for some you want to be informed or alerted that there is soon going to be a discrepancy or a business problem that you should take action on. Maybe in another step, it's about automating and executing a certain task in certain steps with something like RPA, because it is highly repetitive. And then maybe there's something else where it's about approvals, maybe for purchase orders, and if it's below a certain threshold, we might as well have the system approve it unless it flags it as an anomaly, and then we route it to an approver. So really, for me and for us, it's about these different kinds of technology working in concert to solve a business problem. Because you mentioned RPA, right? SAP doesn't just provide AI out of the box. There's also RPA, a solution called SAP Process Automation, where we've built over 100 templates that work very well with SAP products and solutions, so you can get started right away and extend them based on your needs, and obviously build new bots. So really making it easier to get started with automation, but in that view of business processes to drive better business outcomes.
Excellent. So I guess friend rather than foe. You mentioned kind of RPA out of the box with SAP. I'm presuming it's not just RPA, though. I guess Concur would use some kind of OCR or machine vision to extract out of receipts, and no doubt there'll be some conversational AI thrown in somewhere in other aspects, or if not natively, then there's lots of different partnerships around where you see SAP as the core, and I'm sure there's a big partner network of complementary technologies, let's say, that feed off the huge organization that SAP is. I mean, I very rarely meet an organization that doesn't have SAP in one of its forms in them, right? At least one of any scale. So that's all good. So thank you for that. That really is it's great. I think good to hear your views on the role of SAP. The other thing that I'm interested in is, you said earlier on you've kind of been looking at the world of AI and automation for the last kind of 5-6 years. So that's looking back. I guess to kind of finish off today's episode, what I would love to get is you looking forward. Now, get your crystal ball out, and let's start to think about what is going to change over Maybe let's go for another 5 years, right? What do you see changing over the next 5 years? What are the things that we should be looking out for? And this is both SAP and also your opinion, right? What do you see outside of SAP? I'm presuming that you're not going to predict artificial general intelligence, but kind of what are you thinking about? What do you think we're going to see in the next half decade?
One of the things that I see is coming together really is that convergence of different technologies, and we've been talking about this for 3-4 years. Use RPA or like your hands, if you want to use the human analogy. Execute something, it's predefined, repeated many times. Use conversational AI and chatbots for a way to communicate using language. Use machine learning AI, kind of like the brain, if you will, for more complex things. So right now I'm seeing these things coming together and becoming a more seamless experience and becoming more and more part of applications and of products. But one of the key questions that is not very well answered yet today, in my point of view, is, well, where should we even start? And where should we start based on data and facts and not just on a gut feeling or because somebody has an opinion, right? And so there I see things like process mining and especially process intelligence taking a much bigger role in that integration into that fold of these 3, then maybe 4 technologies as well. What should I even start with? And where are my processes not working as intended? Maybe I've designed them a couple of years ago. Now I looked into the system and it's not really how it's running anymore. But also get recommendations for, what else should I be using? Where do I have opportunities to optimize a KPI? What can I be using? That's one thing. And then I think the second one, again, for us, it's very strong about business processes and taking that business process centric view. Looking at the evolution of software itself, starting with on-premise software that you install on a server and on clients, to more of that cloud SaaS-based delivery model, and then going into more composable solutions. So maybe your business process in your industry, maybe your region, looks just a little different than that same business process at a different company. So how can we make it easier and more seamless, putting that together and building intelligence right into it from the very beginning? So that's what I'm seeing where things are most likely headed over the next 4 or 5 years, really bringing more and more capabilities into that fold to get a richer, better, more complete picture and experience when we talk about AI, automation, and business optimization.
Fantastic. And as anyone who's listened to me before, the hands and head work analogy for RPA versus AI is something I am also very, very familiar with. So, of course, that really resonated and is something I wholeheartedly stand behind. So thank you very much for that. I really do appreciate it. I think that probably brings us to the end of today's episode. But I hope that this won't be the end of our conversations. And of course, I am very happy to, as I mentioned before, be a guest on Intelligence Briefing. What's the Buzz? So keep an eye out for that. And I think you've done episode 3 just now. So depending on when this comes out, you may well have done a few more. And if there's a LinkedIn page for that or something that I can reference, I'll make sure that it's included in the show notes for anybody else that is interested in listening to a little bit more of your views around the world of AI and SAP. So, Andreas, thank you very much. I really do appreciate your time.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for having me. It was a great opportunity and looking forward to more conversations like this.
Excellent. And thank you all for listening to Bots and Beyond this week. And we'll see you for another episode in a couple of weeks. So thank you.